Welcome back to another episode of Rover Masterclass. Today we're going to be going over work order scheduling. It's kind of a high level to start, and then if there's anything specific or anything any of you want us to dive into a bit deeper, feel free to let us know. You can put it in the chat. I gave everyone mic access, so if you want to unmute, feel free to speak up and interrupt whoever's talking. And then quick introductions. I think most of you probably know us, but if there's anyone here that doesn't, my name's Curtis. I'm one of the account managers here at Zoom Assist. With us also today is Ron. Ron is one of our senior software engineers and one of the original creators and founders of Rover. We also have Bill with us today too, kind of as a backup, just on standby. He's our sales manager, but if there's any questions that Ron or I can't answer, we have Bill on here as well. He comes with a lot of experience in the manufacturing world. To start us off, Ron is going to kind of go over high-level overview of the work order scheduling process from the .NET desktop client of Rover. Once he's done there, we'll kind of jump over, show you what we have that's new on the web in terms of work order scheduling. And then after that, we'll kind of leave it open if anyone has any questions or if anyone wants to see anything else. We should have plenty of time to do that at the end. So we'll get it started. I'll kick it over to Ron.
Thanks, Curtis. I'll go ahead and share my screen, I assume. Well, one of the things we want to make sure we do today is get you to the newer stuff, which is in the web front end. But in order to do that, we need to start back at the .NET settings and some of the new stuff that's been put in there to support that web front end. So the long-term goal of today is to give you the nice drag and drop look and feel of the scheduling, but we need to understand the basics first. So my goal today is just to go over some of the basic settings. Not sure how many people know these things already or don't know them, but I'm just going to kind of start at the beginning and kind of touch the top of the trees with a lot of this stuff. When we start in the part master screen and we put in a part number, there's a material control tab that we all are aware contained a routing field for the routing ID that's defaulted when this part becomes a work order. There's a new set of fields for those of you who haven't seen it or aren't on this release yet that is alternate routing IDs. So when we get to creating a work order and you want to present the planner with alternate routing IDs that are good substitutions for this routing ID, as opposed to showing them the list of all routings and say, pick one. This gives you the ability to say this overrides the settings, this overrides the hours if you choose. And so this would present a list of the possible routings, again, as opposed to right-clicking and saying, show me every routing and let me pick one. Sometimes that can be a bit overwhelming. So this is the main change in the parts master setup. And I'm going to go through work centers, routings, and a work order. So we'll see this come up when we get there. Beyond that, then the work center screen, we're aware that if you're not aware, work center is where you set up all of your work centers, your descriptions, your hours, setup hours, crew size, pre and post operation hours, also called move and queue time. Set up your labor rates, which is not a function of what we're covering today, but they're down here. But one of the things we're going to get to when we talk about work order scheduling is there are three types of scheduling. There's infinite, which is probably what most of us are using, which means just schedule it as if I have no conflicts, and then let the capacity module tell me where I have the conflicts. The other alternative is to use a fixed finite number and say, I've got capacity in this work center. Up to 12/31/24, I had 8 hours. From 1/1/25 on, I have 12 hours. So you kind of stair step these in case you will schedule something or you want to put a future date in here. That way it'll continue to use this date until we get to 1/1/25. Excuse me. So when you do a finite scheduling, as opposed to infinite, it will not overtax any one work center. So it looks at the current load in the work center. If there are not any hours left for a work order, it'll move out to the next day, to the next day. It'll keep going out and looking, and it will move the entire schedule out until they can find enough time to do the entire work center. So that's a little more, let the computer make decisions for me. I don't know a lot of people that are doing that, but it is possible to do that. Most people want to do it in an infinite capacity and then review what's important, what's not important, and move things around on the schedule. And that's kind of where we're getting into what we're going to show you later, which is the drag and drop moving. So there's not much difference here from what many of you have. It's just understanding what the capacity does. If you're running an infinite, you don't even really need, well, you should put capacity in here if you want to run the crp.q to see what the capacity is on each workstation, where you are over and under capacity, because it needs to know what the capacity is.
Yeah, Ron, just one more thing to add there is the allow scheduling checkbox in the work center.
Okay.
Just when we get to the web, if you want to be able to use the web tool to schedule things very, in a detailed manner, this is the checkbox to enable it, allow scheduling. That's what just kind of a key setup thing. So that's it.
Okay. And obviously we're still working on the field help on that one.
Yep.
So the third thing is to take all these individual work centers and put them into routings. And routings can be keyed by a part number, or you could have a generic routing that applies to a whole family of parts. So you might have a whole series. In this case, I've got some wheels set up here. So you might assign one routing to a whole bunch of wheels. So from a maintenance standpoint, you don't have to maintain one routing per wheel, or it can be per part number. So if I have one that's assigned to the same part number, I can load one into another. I can support documents. An important function of this is the lot size. So the hours that you put down here on these work centers, setup hours, the run hours, mostly, the setup hours are a one-time fixed number, but run hours will be factored by the lot size. So the number of hours you put in here are the number of hours it takes to build 10 of these things. If you don't have anything in this field, it's assumed to be 1, so it's each. But if you want to factor these numbers down, some people, especially people in the electronics industry and places like that, they factored below 2 decimals on the hours. So they need faster times. The way you do that is you put lot size of 10, 100, or 1,000, and that basically factors the run hours down. So rather than expand this out to 4, 5, 6 decimals, we allow you just to put your lot size in it by part. You can control how these run hours are applied. So this will take 4 hours to run 10 units. It'll take 8 hours to run 10 units, etc. So the setup time is a one-time fixed number, has nothing to do with the lot size. It's the time it takes you to set up the machine or the work center or whatever it is, whatever this is. The run hours is the amount of time it takes to actually run this quantity. And then pre and post operation hours are move and queue time. It's before the work is started, how long does it sit, or how long does it take to get there, or how long does it take to dry? And then after, how long does it take? So these are used in scheduling, but not used in costing. The only thing that's used in the costing is setup hours and run hours. All right. The other important function here that is reasonably new is the alternative work center. So we'd all seen work centers, and you can go in and you can pick a work center. You can select the work center you want. Or you can set up for the user to say, these are the alternate work centers that are okay for you to use. And you can have any number. Obviously, this is unlimited. So when this loads into a work order, we're going to see it's going to load stock in. And then there's going to be a right-click option to say, let me see my alternate work centers, and you can pick those. Now, there's a few new things here. This is the change, but then this suppress work center changes is checked. This is going to come up again in the work order. When we check this box, it means when I change from stock to MFG, I do not want new hours to be loaded from this work center. I want the hours on the routing to be the same. So if you uncheck this and it stays unchecked in the work order, when you load MFG in as the alternate work center, it'll look into MFG and see what the setup and run hours are. It'll load those. So it does make a change in the schedule and the amount of time each step takes. So this would be, don't change it. It's going to take the same amount of time. I just want to run it in a different work center, or allow changes. Okay. So this is all predicated on the fact we're going to get to work orders and do something with all these things.
Yeah, just a quick note to everybody. You know, the really, we've always been able to scale the hours based on the size of the work order using the lot size, like Rob mentioned. But the alternate routings in general and the alternate work centers really comes into play if you have, let's say you run this group of people or this group of machines, if it's a small order, but you use a different set of people and a totally different process if you have a very large order. That's where this kind of really kind of came out of. And then the only other thing kind of in addition to that is if you have to have things very controlled from a quality standpoint, like you're regulated and you have quality has had to validate that this product can be run at this place, then that's another great kind of use case for this functionality. So just to kind of bring it to that level for a second before we keep going. So.
Okay, thanks. So the end result of all this ends up being what gets loaded, what is available in the work order. So if I'm going to create a new work order, I'll just go ahead through this, and I'll do it for the same part number we've just been playing with. And I'm going to make 10 of these. And it defaults the routing here. I can look up by partial routing. I can do summary detail routing, or if I drop down, I can see the main routing and then the alternate routing. So this came out of the parts master record. It preloaded this into this field for me, and I can choose one or the other. Now, when it comes down to scheduling, we obviously have forward scheduling, which means you put in a release date. I'm releasing this today and tell me when you can get it done. Or I'll tell you when I need it, back schedule to tell me where to start it. Or the third method is manual, which is not very commonly used. But if you want to manually identify the start and stop times on each work center or the release and complete date, because you know no matter what happens, you need to get this done by Friday, then you can do that by setting it to manual. So finite is using the capacity in each work center and not overloading any work center. Infinite says, I don't care about capacity. I'm going to load it as if I had infinite capacity. And then I'll let the capacity planning module tell me where I'm over and under. Manual is just that. So we can put in a start date. And I'll say I'm going to do that today. I'm going to leave complete date empty. It'll schedule for me. And when I hit enter through that field, it says you can complete this, or you should be able to complete this based on the schedule by 10/27. So then the question then becomes, how did it come up with some of these numbers? And if we look at the routing and schedule that got loaded, the 5-step routing came in, the standard routing. It loaded the setup times, it loaded run times, and pre and post operation hours. So I said start at the beginning and tell me when it can be done. So it starts with today, and it went out and says, okay, I could finish this whole step in one day because I have 8 hours as my run hours. I mean, my available hours. So it says you can do this all in one day. The next one's going to be able to start at the end of that day, but it's going to go into tomorrow. And so it starts going through the schedule and determines how many hours need to lay in to get there. So it goes all the way down and keeps going. It'll skip a weekend. And then it says, okay, you complete this on 10/27. So whatever the last day is based on this schedule is the date it gives the complete date on the header screen. Now, the other alternative we have here is in the work center. If I wanted to select alternate work centers, if I have them set up in the routing I got manufacturing and manufacturing test. And you can see here it says that's that suppress work center change box we saw in work center entry. I can override that here. It may be that I want to suppress work center changes in general, but this one time I want to override this. You can uncheck that box. So at this point I can set the test department, but it's going to run in the test department, but notice it didn't change anything. Didn't change the description, didn't change the setup or run or pre and post operation hours, because this checkbox said not to do that. So this allows you to control different work centers that you've pre-approved for this person to use, as opposed to opening a select work center and saying, here's every work center you have, pick the one you want to use. They could pick something that makes no sense. So if you want to limit what they can do, you can do that in routing.e. So what did we have this at? Oh, we had it in stock. I've overridden it now. So then that's it. That schedules it. We've got work center 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It checks the outside processing box. It's just a notification that that's our outside processing step. These run hours are probably the time it takes the vendor to do. Some of these, I mean, if this was me, I probably would have put those 8 hours in pre-op or post-op, 4 hours to get there, 4 hours to get back if you have to send it off to a vendor. But that you can control that however you want. You put these hours in. It's important to note, setup and run hours in a standard cost environment calculate the cost. These get applied as labor to the cost. Pre and post operation hours do not get applied as labor. They're strictly scheduling fields. Okay, that is the setup. Are there any questions, or you want to take this over, Bill or Curtis?
Yeah. Can do.
Because I think what they really want to see is the good stuff.
You think
Yeah,
so?
I think it's a good, segue too, because the web is kind of a way of manually scheduling, I would call it, right? Is we still preserve the capability of Rover to intelligently calculate the schedule, and we have the record of those dates. So then this is going to be, maybe you use them, maybe you don't, but if you have the opportunity with the web to adjust things and sort of explicitly schedule them, which a lot of companies will use that. Planning it's like a calculated date of when it's going to get done. But then when production schedules it into the lines, we have a record now that's different that says production actually scheduled it. And it's a way of them kind of committing to the schedule as well. And Curtis is going to show us that. If you do you have work order control in the client ready, Curtis? Or?
Yeah. Let me switch my screen.
Okay. I think we could lead with either, but we just want to show you some of the control configurations that are further needed, and then we're going to get to the way it looks in the web itself. Okay, so we've added there's a tab now in the work order control record called scheduling, and you can see the group names there. So this is a way where you can group together different work centers that you schedule together. So this could be, if your work centers are machines that are similar, you could make a group for those machines. If it's all your work centers, you could do a group for all your work centers, people, etc. You have ways to kind of create as many different groupings of work centers as you want. And then when Curtis takes it over to web, we'll kind of see where that comes into play. In addition, there's some other functionality here. I think we have issue codes is a new tab as well, which is going to come into play. This is if you have issues that can arise on work orders that affect scheduling, you can define them here, and then they'll present on the web as well. So I think that's it, Curtis. If
Cool.
there's some coloring options there, but I think we're
Perfect.
kind of going to start at the high level here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be kind of a high level walkthrough of the new work order scheduling kind of Gantt chart drag and drop tool that we developed. Kind of would be the next steps after what Ron showed us of you creating your work orders. So we'll log into our web client here to the production module and then jump over here to scheduling. So kind of jumping off of what Bill just said about his groups, here's where you would select your groups. Right, for this purpose, I created my new LLC, Curtis's Wheel Company. Feel free to buy your wheels from there. But so this is going to be, once you create your work orders in Rover and you release them, they're going to show up here under the scheduling tab for unscheduled orders. There's a couple ways that you can schedule these, but if we go down here, you can kind of see your timeline for the window that you selected. So right now I just have the entirety of today from midnight last night till midnight tonight. But then here we have the different work centers that are associated with the Curtis's Wheel Company group. So for example, we have this work order here, 1057. It's a painted wheel. What I can do is I can just grab it, drop it down for, let's say, 5 o'clock, and then boom. So now it'll schedule all the different steps from the work order that we created inside of Rover. So we have the kitting department doing that step, grinding here, goes up for powder coating all the way to, what is that, 2 o'clock, and then the actual painting process. So once we have that dropped in here, we can save it, and then that'll actually schedule this work order to be done. You can also grab by specific process. So I want to put another kitting here, put a grinding step here.
So just a point there, Curtis.
Yep.
You'll notice if you can kind of highlight it and just hold it for a second when you're dragging an operation. So go ahead and drag. Yeah, go ahead. Notice that there's like 8 work centers that are grayed out and 3 that are open. That is because of the definition in the routing that those are valid alternates for that operation. So the goal here is to prevent somebody from scheduling it anything but a valid alternate work center that you specified. Okay.
Yep. Cool. So let's put that there, and then this one here, and this kind of a bit of a longer process than just dragging the whole thing, but you can kind of pick and choose where you want to go. So for this example, for my assembly portion of this work order, if I only had the one work center, I would have to wait until this process is completed, which is a lot of downtime for this work order. But since I have an alternate work center, I can drag this piece over here and it can start there. And you can save there too. And then, so what I kind of did too beforehand is to show you what a full one would look like, is if we look at Thursday and Friday, oops. What did I do here? If you look at Thursday and Friday, got all these different work orders going. And the cool thing here too is, let's say we need an emergency or we need to change something, someone calls in, you need to rush something. I can actually take one of these processes, let's say I want to drop it in the middle right here. It'll reschedule everything ahead of it. So I took this work order, dropped in there because I needed it first, and then we'll push all these back to reschedule everything for you. You can also change just by dragging across. And then let's say you want to put this, more 8 o'clock, I can actually push all these back to make sure that this one starts at 8. And then since I moved them, they need to be resaved and rescheduled. You can also click into these. You can change the work center. If you have any alternate work centers, let's say something went wrong with, one of your work centers, I can switch it over to a new one. I can also select an issue code to apply to one, then you'll see this work order and across all the processes now has an issue. You can add notes. Pretty simple. I didn't do a great job of making my shop floor pretty efficient. As you can see, there's a lot of gaps, but that's why I don't schedule work orders for an actual manufacturer. But it's a pretty simple process. It's just dragging and dropping. It gives you a good high level overview of what actually is going on your shop floor at any given time. Does anyone have any questions? Anything else you want to see that we may have glanced over? I know this was pretty quick. Eric, is there a way to prevent people from overlapping steps with the same work reference in your last email? I'll leave
Eric,
that one to Bill, but the question is there a way to prevent people from overlapping steps within the same work order? For instance, in your last example, you were able to put multiple steps in the same time frame, but it is likely that one department cannot work on their step until the previous step has been completed.
Yeah, Eric, good question. And there is a way. It's an open kind of feature request. So at this point, it's going to come in this way, and the person would be scheduling one work order at a time, and they would be doing that. But we could chain them. It's kind of business dependent because as you know, sometimes a work order could have quantities that are moving through the process simultaneously. So they might be happening concurrently, or they might be dependent on one another. So it is an open feature request to kind of enforce that dependency, quote unquote, like a kind of like a project management scheduling tool. But it is definitely business dependent because sometimes, like I said, they could be happening simultaneously, certain quantities of the work order. So good question. Any other, I don't know if that covers it. Okay.
Yeah, Greg, what dictates the order of the operations on the left side? Can order them in the order of the process that have to be done? Are you talking about these?
Yeah,
Okay.
Greg. It's just the way that they appear in the work order scheduling group. So if we go back to the work order.control, and we look at Curtis's company, the scheduling group. Yeah, Curtis's wheels. Right now, the way the system works, it's in the order that they're defined in the work center grouping. So very possibly you could either just manually, by adjusting what that grouping is, control it, or I guess we possibly could add another column too for sequence that we wanted to appear on the board, and that would probably solve it too. Okay, any other questions? And Greg, let us know if that didn't address it. Oh, if it matched the routing work center numbers, that would be good. Understand. You mean in the routing sequence, like the operation steps? Okay. Yeah, that could be, as long as just adding so if they kind of always appear in sequence that way, then I would again, you could just code them here in the scheduling group. But the one challenge I could see maybe is that maybe certain products, the sequence isn't always the same. So how do you, this board is kind of visualizing multiple work orders, so they could have different sequences, but open to ideas there too. If you want to kind of get into more detail, we can you could either shoot us an email or something, and then we can figure out if it'll work for you or not, the way it is. Yeah.
Sweet. Anything from anybody else? Any questions? Anything you want to see? Anything you're struggling with that we could help you out with while we're on the call? Going once, going twice, sold. All right, one last thing we kind of want to leave you with before we let you go is next Wednesday, the 30th, Corey and Tyler are going to be hosting an AI in manufacturing webinar. I think Bill might be dropping the link in the chat. I see him typing. If you guys would like to learn a little bit more about AI and how it could help you guys out with your manufacturing or your distribution or just life in general, feel free to join. We recently brought on Tyler, who's an AI wizard. So any questions you guys might have about how you best can use AI, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of information there that's going to be helpful for you.
I don't have the link handy, Curtis, but I can grab it if you don't have it.
I got it.
Got it? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so dropped in there. If you guys want to register again, just another little webinar that we're trying to put together to provide some information. Yeah, and kind of like what Bill said, anyone that's still here that wants to maybe throw out a suggestion, maybe something you're struggling with for next month's masterclass. Jake, you don't count.
Okay.
Got 7 ideas.
Oh, cool. Well, if you think of something later on in the day or after the call, feel free to email one of us. And we can think about doing that for next month. But if no one has any other questions or anything else you want to dive into, I think that's it for today. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Bill. Thanks
you.
everyone for coming.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. All right.
Yeah, appreciate it.